The NBA players have spoken. The Athletic has released their annual poll. The anonymous poll sent out to about 150 NBA players talking about a variety of topics in the NBA. We've got things like, what do you think about 10-minute quarters? We've got who's the best coach in the NBA. We've got who do you think is going to be the MVP? 158 players to be exact, over a third of the league, every team represented in this poll, anonymous voting, and there are a bunch of different categories, and I want to break some of these down because they stand out in a way that give us good information and also give us good things to talk about.
Yeah.
So the first poll question that they have on their article, who the MVP was. And I feel that this is a precursor to what we're likely going to get in a couple of weeks when the NBA's Most Valuable Player Award is announced. And while it was a two-horse race with 94% of the vote being split between these two players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander beat out Nikola Jokic in the voting. SGA got 56% of the vote. Jokic just north of 37% of the vote. So according to the NBA players, more than half of them feel that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be the MVP or is the MVP of the league.
I guess I'm not surprised about that one. I think Shai Gilgeous has just been something we've been talking about the entire season, what he has done with the Thunder. And I think there is a little bit of, they're maybe a little tired of Nikola Jokic winning another one. A little bit. But Nikola Jokic, the reason I think he jumped into it is when he officially averaged a triple-double, right? Becoming the only third player to do that in history. Yeah. That's when his name kind of really jumped up.
I also think the 61-point triple-double game.
Oh, yeah.
Like
You're
that,
right.
like there was like this this leap that took place of like, all right, what are we doing?
Absolutely. No, I totally forgot about that one. You're right. Forgot he did that crazy stat line.
But no, I think that your point is fair. My whole issue with the MVP and people say, well, these are the best numbers that we've ever seen for anybody. How can you not give them? We've had whatever, maybe right or wrong, whatever it is, but this way of voting for the MVP has gone on forever. Mm-hmm. We are not changing it at this point. Best player, best team, hasn't won one, is a new star. Those are all the boxes that are checked off by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. MVP awards have been given to other players with that criteria. That fits for me. SGA, completely good with me as being the MVP.
I'm fine with him winning the MVP as well. I think Nikola Jokic can also win it, right? Like, I'm not going to be upset. But SGA, what he's done this year, deserves it. And he's fun to watch. I know he's sometimes a little bit of a foul merchant. He goes for the foul instead of trying to score. But he is fun to watch. And OKC is fun to watch. That's also a part of it.
It's also better for the NBA's business. And I know like the voters aren't thinking of that. But giving Jokic another MVP isn't great for business.
Sure.
In 4 and 5 years would be great for Jokic, but I don't even think he cares.
He doesn't.
But it would be much better for the NBA to have SGA be an MVP, not only with the letters, because it works, SGA MVP, but also SGA MVP in OKC. It's pretty amazing. But it's also the fact of you have now another like superstar that you could put as MVP, and you can get some run out of that. Yeah. I'm not saying that the NBA is going to rig the MVP voting, but I think it'd be better for the league if SGA ended up winning.
And it helps, right? Coming from a small market also helps the league. That makes them rise a little bit more to becoming a major market.
Now, the Thunder did not get as much love when the players were polled on who you think, other than your own team, would win the title. They came in second, 17.5% of the vote. Overwhelming votes in favor of Boston. Almost 58% of the players polled feel that the Celtics are going to win the title this season. What I thought was interesting was not that Boston was number 1 or that the Thunder were 2 or that the Cavs were 3. It was that the Lakers were 4.
Right.
6.6%. So of all the teams in the NBA, the Lakers, they are third seed in the West, but Rockets didn't get any votes in this poll. The Nuggets did get a few. By the way, this poll was done prior to Mike Malone's dismissal. The writers made sure to make that point, so maybe there was more belief in what the Nuggets were going to do. But to have the rest of the league think that the Lakers could win a title was interesting to me.
Right, and this happened after Luka was traded to the
Yes,
Lakers,
yep.
right? And that's the jump. There was no everyone. The minute Luka went to the Lakers, I think a lot of people did think like, the Lakers all of a sudden do become a contender. When before I didn't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Even with AD, when that happened, I was like, this does make them a team that can be scary.
We even had a conversation on the Doug Gottlieb show that precedes Covino and Rich about who we thought were likely title contenders. I know Jason Stewart was in on that. I think Jason, Doug, and Sam felt Golden State because it was Golden State or the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked the Lakers because I just felt the overwhelming popularity behind what they've done over the last couple of months was something that was out there. Coaching-wise, the Warriors have an advantage, the whole deal. Warriors only got 1.5% in this poll. Same number as the Milwaukee Bucks.
Right. And this was also when they acquired Jimmy Butler, which is, I get that, though. I get that. I think people just thought that the Warriors were going to be a little bit better, but that they maybe wouldn't win a 7-game series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
I find it interesting where people wonder if the Warriors have enough with Curry and Butler, but feel that the Lakers do because of Austin Reeves, but not looking at, again, the coaching or the defensive side of the ball. Also think like guys like Podziemski and Moses Moody aren't necessarily considered into those equations when they should be.
Absolutely. And the Warriors, I think sometimes also you look at them and you're like, you're kind of short. When Draymond Green is your center, they're kind of short.
Small.
You're kind of, as a team, obviously.
Short's disrespectful.
I
feel
am
like
short.
They should go small.
They go
like when
small.
they go small.
They go small. When Draymond Green, because how tall is Draymond Green?
6'9".
6'9". And he might be.
That's my guess. He's probably 6'7". Yeah.
He's.
I bet he's listed 6'9".
Let's look.
Listed 6'6" on
really?
Google.
Okay. All
listed at 6'6", so
There it
he
is.
might not be 6'6".
It's the first thing that comes up on Google, so who knows?
That's probably fair.
Yeah. So
I thought they would even embellish. Then he's probably 6'4".
They
Like
might.
if he's listed at 6'6", he's probably 6'4".
exactly.
Except
He's
Kevin
my
Durant.
size, by the way.
Is he? Well,
Basically.
Kevin Durant doesn't want to be 7 feet, so he would always be like 6'11".
He's crazy. He's crazy.
Okay, 5 years from now, who will be the face of the NBA? 138 votes were cast in this, and another landslide victory, and it's Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs.
I'm surprised on this one that the players voted this.
I am not.
Really?
Because I think they get a first-hand look at the alien that he is.
Okay.
I think like when you see like of what he could be and what he is right now and what can be in San Antonio, they get a good pick. Now you got De'Aaron Fox there. And I mean,
Kind of like the first-hand look at the Celtics. That's why they were so overwhelmingly favorite.
yeah, I also think, and I know Jason's been a Wemby guy is well on this, but I just also think that there's a newness. So Anthony Edwards came in second on this list. SGA came in third, and Jason Tatum came in fourth. And I just feel they've been around like longer.
Yeah.
Like if it was going to happen, they would be on. Like it would have happened.
Yeah.
And I know Anthony Edwards made the headlines and saying I don't want to be the face of the league, and it started this whole other deal. But again, I don't think that you choose it. I think that it chooses you, and I just don't think that those other candidates are like John Morant got 2.2% of the vote. There's no way John Morant's going to be the face of the league. For as great as he is and for as dynamic as he is with everything that's gone on with John Morant, it's just not going to happen. And there's this newness to Wemby where he's almost unblemished.
And we just don't know what the ceiling is yet
Sure.
for Victor Wembanyama. What about Luka coming in so low at 2.9? Luka Doncic is also has 10 years maybe left. Like he could be. I'm surprised how low.
I
his
agree
percentage.
with you. I thought it would be higher. I thought that it should be higher. Maybe they feel like Nico Harrison felt, or players felt it and saw it that way. I would think of just even the change of scenery of putting Luka in a Lakers uniform gives you a bit of a bump up.
Absolutely.
Others that received votes that weren't in this, Cade Cunningham and Paolo Banchero each got 2.2% of the votes, but you did have Scotty Barnes. Kevin Durant was a nominee. in an others receiving vote, Chet Holmgren, Zachary Rizachet of the Hawks, Shaden Sharp, and Zion Williamson also got a vote.
Yeah.
I think Zion's time is over as well.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's no way.
No, that door's closed.
Jason Stewart?
You guys know that discussion that we've had over the past year about the face of the NBA and the question of is this country or NBA fans willing to have a foreign player as the face of the league? Okay?
Yes.
I really think that now looking back at that discussion, I really think it is, and judging by this poll even, I think they mean, are we ready for a white foreign player? Because you hear about Victor and he's a foreign player, but he is very much accepted now. Giannis is another player that was always very much accepted. But I think the conversation needs to switch to the race card. I hate to bring this into this conversation, but Luka being that low on this list and Wembanyama having such a majority, I think that's astounding. It says a lot.
I think if you would have taken this poll at the end of last year in June, I think Luka would have been second and Anthony Edwards would have been third.
Interesting. And you're probably right because he was in the finals.
Like for everything that's gone on with Luka, the Mavericks' decision to move on from him was in some sorts a public indictment on the way that he plays. Now, these players are the ones who are voting. They get to see it night in and night out. But I don't think that there's any way in seeing what Luka did at the end of last year and did to the Timberwolves and did to Anthony Edwards that you wouldn't think that he would be possibly next because he was on that track. I think the trade changed him and actually hurt him in this scenario. I don't think it's as much about color, but I will say this in the race factor, and I don't know if it was if you were allowed to vote this way, but Cooper Flagg coming into the league and hearing the rave reviews that we've heard, not only from his freshman year in what we saw at Duke, but just of when he was on the Team USA squad that would practice against the Olympic team that went last year. Those Olympians, those guys who are trying to replace LeBron James and Steph Curry, those are the guys that are saying Cooper Flagg was the most impressive of any of them. So in this ranking where Jason Tatum is there and Paolo Banchero and Cade Cunningham got a couple of votes, if you were allowed to pick someone outside of the league, I think that Cooper Flagg probably would have been able to receive votes in this scenario.
You might be onto something, and I'd be curious to see what this is next year after a year of Cooper Flagg in the NBA.
Tune in to Covino and Rich on April 22nd, 2026 for our answer of that. Jason thinks it's more of a race thing. I don't. I think that Luka would have been up in the rankings if it wasn't for his trade.
I don't think it has to do with race. I think it has more to do with what you said about Victor Wembanyama's career being so short that there's so many. We really don't know what his ceiling is, especially with this season being cut so short.
His weaknesses aren't weaknesses right now.
No.
Like Luka's Luka's been in the league long enough when you look at a player and you're like, you know what?
Like you kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah, he's got to get in better shape.
Yeah.
Like Victor Wembanyama, like in what he has done, if there's stuff that he needs to improve, like if he needs to get stronger, you just say, well, he needs to add weight.
Yep.
He needs to gain weight. Now his health is obviously first and foremost of on the thoughts and minds of everyone, but in when we look at him, the negatives or the cons would be stuff that you can improve on, and I think guys that have been around the league as long as some of those others, now we just look at as weaknesses or negatives. Most overrated player in the league is Tyrese Halliburton, according to these players.
Why?
I think it's because his jump shot is so ugly. And I honestly feel that is a part of it. Like he doesn't play, he doesn't look
right
like he should be that good.
Yes.
But he is. I mean, and so I think that's part of it.
That's crazy because, I mean, I feel like Tyrese Halliburton's personality, the small that we get to see, he seems like a likable dude. So I'm just surprised. We know Rudy Gobert has been a bit of a controversial player.
Sure.
He's done some things maybe that,
there are people also that think that Rudy Gobert just completely can disappear.
Absolutely.
Like when the going gets tough, don't go to Rudy Gobert.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the case. Luka put him on skates. Now, it's not Rudy Gobert's strength.
No, yeah.
But, I mean, Rudy Gobert guarding Luka Doncic in the Western Conference Finals was like someone walking on an ice rink with no skates. That's what it looked like. It wasn't that he was put on skates. It was that he had no skates. And so you're slipping and sliding. But I also think that when it comes to the moment, he doesn't rise up to the occasion.
Right. And when you are a defensive player of the year and you're a liability on defense. So, because wasn't he the most overrated last year?
Rudy? He may have been.
I feel like he was, or it's been a topic of discussion. I'm surprised it's not Rudy Gobert. Still, to be honest, I can't. Tyrese Halliburton.
Yep, no, you're right. You're right here. Rudy Gobert.
Most.
And third place was Trae Young this year. Young was third last year. Gobert was first last year.
And so Tyrese Halliburton just came out of nowhere.
This was the comment about Rudy Gobert. I don't understand the defensive player of the year stuff when you don't guard the people who have the ball most of the time, the ones who are making most of the decisions. So that's when you talk about him walking on an ice rink with tennis shoes. That's what he looked like playing defense against Luka. Mm-hmm. I will say this. There were only 90 votes cast.
On this one?
Yes, as opposed to 130, so maybe other players didn't want to weigh in. But I do feel that people had an axe to grind because there's like 40 nominees.
Yes,
and so I think
absolutely.
that the NBA players are like, I am going to give you who I think is overrated. Third, we're going to go deep in this list, just quick hits. Trae Young. I actually have felt that Trae Young has been overrated his entire career. I think that I've never been a buyer in Trae Young's. I don't think that his numbers correlate with the team's success.
Yeah.
I think that you can look at the assist numbers and you can look at the points. It hasn't translated in wins. I think even when the Hawks made their little run, Trae Young was dinged up for a while. I don't think that he translates to winning basketball. I think Trae Young is about Trae Young. Your boy Jimmy Butler was fourth. I completely agree with this. But he has been great.
Listen,
like he was great in game one.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler in the playoff Jimmy is a real thing. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing. And I don't know if I actually agree. I agree with what you said about Trae Young maybe not playing team basketball. But I do think Trae Young, for what he does with his size, is pretty incredible.
I'll give that, yes. But I also think that Trae Young knows how to get his numbers.
Yeah, and that's why, it's like I agree. Yes, like I agree with you. But I wouldn't say he's overrated. But
sure.
Yeah.
So last year we had Gobert 1 and Trae Young 3. Who else was in last year's rankings, Jason?
Jordan Poole was second.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Dylan Brooks was 4.
They didn't even make the top 8. Dylan Brooks is lower down the list with 2.2% of the vote. Bradley Beal, I feel like he's taken a lot of the heat for why the Suns ended up failing because he's the third wheel in that. Draymond Green was brought up. John Morant was brought up. Joel Embiid was an interesting name. Giannis's name was also cast, and so was LeBron.
No,
so
that was somebody just being a hater.
I'm telling you,
someone being a hater.
Somebody had an axe to grind in all of this. What also is funny in the one vote category, Jock Landale got a vote. Like somebody had an axe to grind there. Chris Paul. That's
how.
Yeah.
Nobody even talks about the guy.
So those are the most overrated. Finally, let's end on a good note. Let's end on a positive note here. Most underrated player, Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons.
How? How is he underrated? He's a star for the Pistons, number 1 overall draft pick in his, third year? How is he underrated?
He has taken his team to a level that they have not seen in a decade. He has increased his level of play. Despite the expectations of being the number 1 overall pick, he's now an all-star. I think he's raised his game, and maybe because he was buried in Detroit. He also had some health issues early on in his career. But now that he's healthy, I think the guys that see him night in and night out are now wanting people to know how good Cade Cunningham is.
But he's the star of the Pistons. We all know that. In fact, when we were just discussing who could be the face of the league, even some put his name out there. So is he underrated or can he be the face of the league?
You're a Cade hater.
I am not a Cade hater.
You're a Cader.
No, it's not. I even brought this up on the Doug Gottlieb show one time that Cade Cunningham could be the face of the league. And I was shut down because he's in a small market. But no, I just don't get how he can be underrated in a short amount of time when you were the number 1 overall pick, taking your team to new heights. Isn't that what you were expected to do? That's why you were selected number 1 overall.
Take it up with the NBA players, Monse Bolanos.
I want to know who voted for this. Give me the list.
The Mavericks received votes in best and worst franchises. Best and worst, they got votes.
Perfect.
Mark Daigneault of the Thunder, the runaway winner for best coach in the NBA. She's Monse Bolanos. I'm Dan Beyer. Monse would get all the votes for best host of this duo right here.
Nah.
Somebody even blatantly said a great, like, what did they write? Dan and our great one Monse on a tweet. They wrote my name first, but then wrote our great one Monse.
See, that's not disrespectful. That was respectful.
Hey, I love it that you're getting. I love it you're getting the recognition, even if it's at my expense. Completely okay with me.